In just a second.
Sitting. No. Yeah. 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 Who is it?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Welcome everyone. So I am Shobhamay Das. I go by Moy in the running group. This is my wife Riddhi, and I don't know if you can see our daughter Shanvi over here. Um, so today we'll be talking about nutrition for health and recovery. I used to be like this hamster. I used to eat a lot. Uh, and
Me too.
like we have learned a lot of lessons over the years, and um, basically the disclaimer is that again we are presenting the data based on our personal experience. We are not experts in the field. We are not dietitians or like we are not going to give you medical advice. We're not physicians. So if you have any reservations about changing your lifestyle or habits, think about it before you do it. So if you make a word cloud of all the different kinds of diets out there from, so this was a page on Wikipedia, so I basically took all the words there and made a word cloud of it. You can see it is like there is a lot of stuff out there, lots of different kinds of diets. You will hear different kinds of names like Atkins diet or kosher diet or like different kinds of diet. So we have been bamboozled by the different kinds of nomenclature and things like that. So we have tried to understand over the years the science behind it, and then applied it to our own day-to-day life. So you have to figure out at the end of the day, take whatever we are saying like um, as just like guiding principles, and then figure out what is your cup of tea. Like everyone's cup of tea will be different. It will look different. So just figure out what works best for you and then stick with it. So before we start, I wanted to just engage everyone. Can anyone tell me what is the the common theme between these four images which you see? Just shout it out if you can figure it out. What is the common
Balance.
Balance.
Yes, there you go. So balance is what we are looking for when we are thinking about diet. It's all about balance. Like if you can figure out a balance in your time, in your different kinds of food that you're eating, that's like that's the bottom line of my presentation. Is it's all about balance. Okay, first, just like basic principles, what are macro and micronutrients? So on the left, you see macronutrients, which are basically the major protein or like energy sources for you, like proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And micronutrients are those things which you need in very small quantities, like vitamins, minerals, organic acids, but they play a very, very vital, essential role. Um, so just to go into quick details, you need it in large amounts, macronutrients. It should be eaten in balance. Again, important. Like you can't have a lot of fat and no protein, carbohydrate. You have to keep that balance. If you eat too much of any of these, this will lead to lifestyle diseases like diabetes, obesity, things like that. And these things are important for general growth, metabolism, and bodily functions. On the other hand, micronutrients you need only in very, very small amounts. And you have to make sure that you're like, I mean, you can't do it on a daily basis, but you need to make sure that you're getting enough like vitamins and minerals from all your sources. For example, if you are a vegan, you don't have a like vitamin B12 in your diet, so you need to supplement it. So just make sure that you're getting all the micronutrients. So these micronutrients are important for critical pathways in the biochemistry of the body. For example, like blood clotting, just an example, like there are cofactors which are important. So some vitamins are important in that clotting pathway. So if you don't have that, then your blood will not clot, and you will probably bleed to death. So deficiency is really difficult to deal with. You need to take supplements if you have deficiency. Um, so one thing we wanted to make sure that we don't forget, because most of the talk is going to be about food and nutrients and things like that, but we also wanted to talk about water. And water is really important. Most of the water that you drink is not just plain H2O. It is, the water has minerals in it, so it is considered to be one sort of nutrient. So can you answer, like any one of you answer, while you can survive 3 weeks without food, how long can you survive without water? Does anyone know? Just shout it out. Any guesses?
I cannot survive for a day.
What is the max?
That's my perspective.
3 days. Yes, exactly, 3 days. So
who is that who answered the question?
I'm on a roll, Meenu.
Oh, Meenu. Oh, yeah, Meenu.
Meenu is good at
okay. You'll get one water bottle as a gift. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, let's continue. So human body, as you know, is 60% water. So water is like super important. If you have less water, so if you are dehydrated, you have less blood circulation, blood volume circulation, which leads to less oxygen and nutrients available for you, and thus it reduced your athletic performance. And so it is, of course, vital for like joints and cartilages, especially during workout. So if you're dehydrated, your joints might start having more friction, you might have more pain and things like that. So water hydration is like super, super important. So in general, you lose about 3 liters to just breathing, sweating, and peeing during a whole full day. And this is like without workout. So if you are working out, you are losing more water. So you have to drink at least 2 to 3 liters of water every day when you're not working out. If you're working out, even more. And most importantly, just drinking water is not enough. Everyone recommends that you just add a pinch of salt because it helps the absorption of water. Like if you drink just water, you might just pass it out. But if you drink it with a pinch of salt, you will absorb it. Your blood volume will increase. So it's important to add that pinch of salt. Yeah, so it basically keeps the electrolyte balance of the body. So one question that came into our mind when we were thinking about it is, what is in your drinking water? Like, do you know what, like, do you drink tap water or do you have filtered water? Do you use reverse osmosis? So one thing that we did was we checked the local water that we get as a utility in our place. And this is one source, ewg.org/tap water. You can click on it. They have, you just put in your zip code and it will tell you the basically water quality measurements that they have done. And for example, Menlo Park, we have, this is the tap water results. So these are the 8 chemicals, which is beyond the like healthy guidelines level. So EWG healthy guideline, for example, let's take chloroform for an example. So here EWG guideline is 0.4 parts per billion, but we have 45.7 parts per billion in the water, the tap water that we get, which is 114x the guideline. One thing to remember is that the federal government doesn't have a legal limit all the time for all the things. And most of the guidelines that are currently used are based on studies that were done like decades ago. So you have to be careful what water you're drinking, because you're drinking 2 to 3 liters of water every day, and these heavy metals or any of these chemicals, they are going to get into your liver, and this is going to lead to like chronic problems. So if like look at your city and then figure out like what kind of filter you would need to remove those things. Another thing also from Menlo Park is, you can see molybdenum, strontium, vanadium. These are all heavy metals, not good. Even if it's like 0.33 parts per billion, over a period of time, I mean, you should not have any of it. Over a period of time, you will accumulate more. So, and heavy metals have a lot of toxicity and on a lot of problems. So it's best to just avoid it.
So as in, there are filters that will help you filter a lot of these out.
Yeah. And EWG's website, EWG stands for Environmental Working Group. And they have a lot of information about it on their website. So if you go to that, this website that I have linked here, ewg.org/tapwater, they also have things about filters and stuff. Okay, back to food, which is what we want to talk about. We want to talk about some eating commandments. We wanted to simplify things so that we're not like throwing a lot of information at you. So we are kind of thought of like 8 different commandments. Yeah, and we think that if you follow these commandments, this will lead to general good health. And then of course, we will talk about sports at the end, about how to prepare for sports and recovery. So just to quickly go through these, you should eat all the colors. So rainbow of all foods. You should eat all 6 tastes, meaning sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. And then seasonal foods, so that you are in sync with the nature. Eat at the same time of the day, every day. So you're not like having lunch one day at 3 p.m. and one day at like 11 a.m. Doesn't work. Eat the largest meal at lunch. Eat in moderation, of course, as our elders always say, and eat mindfully and peacefully while sitting down. A lot of people are always in a rush. It's like, oh, to get things done. We need to really spend, like, even if it's like 20 minutes or 30 minutes for yourself, just spend that time just mindfully eating. And really important, which we have found, like both of us have been doing this, the last point, eating breakfast at least 12 hours after dinner for almost a year now, I think. And the first 3 months, I think we quickly lost like 10-15 pounds very quickly, and then we have been at that level since then. So we'll be spending like one slide for each of these commandments. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. So what do I mean by eating all the colors? So one thing to remember is, and I think this is now known fact, that we should have vegetables and fruits as the majority of your food intake. So when we talk about eating all the colors, we mean that just have a diversity of food when you are eating. So it's not like I'm just eating apples in my fruits, or just like red colored vegetables. Just have a whole diversity. And you can see here, different colored foods have different like phytonutrients, which help in different things in the body. So ideally, if you're making, let's say, khichdi, you want to put some eggplant, some broccoli, some I don't know, like beets, some zucchini, some pumpkin, purple cabbage, something like, just mix all of these so that you get all those phytonutrients. Ideally, I mean, if you can do a salad, even better. But if you're doing a khichdi or something like that, that's also fine. The whole point is, sometimes you're stuck with, oh, I'm just gonna eat potatoes and cauliflower. That's like in the white category, which is not good. Is there anything else? So the next thing is eating all 6 tastes. So as I said, there are these 6 different tastes: sweet, bitter, pungent, astringent, sour, and salty. So why do we say that? Is because rasa or ras means taste. It also means emotion. And these different tastes actually carry an emotional quality. So, I mean, when you taste these things, there are regions in your brain that light up. Okay. So you need to satisfy all these 6 tastes during this meal. And it doesn't mean that you're going to add like all the different like salt and khatta and meetha, everything in. I mean, it's all in balance, and it's also in the ingredients. Like you can imagine something which is pungent and it's added to, let's say, bitter melon. You add some pumpkin or something to it, and then make something. You put salt, a little bit of sweet, and just and it doesn't have to be like just one thing. The whole meal can be balanced with these 6 tastes. Like you can have a chutney, which is khatta, meetha with it, something like that. So Leaving out a taste, one of these will make you feel unsatiated. So that will lead to cravings. Like you will be like, oh, I want to eat some sweet or something crunchy or something like that. You may not crave bitter, but it is possible. So some examples of these different tastes. So sweet, of course, you have fruit, grains, natural sugars, milk. Sour, you have sour fruits, yogurt, fermented foods. Astringent, I mean, these things you probably know, salts, bitter. I'm gonna skip to astringent. So astringent is something which absorbs water. Like if you let's say soak chickpeas, you put in this much water, like it'll be gone in like 30 minutes because it is absorbing all the water, tightens all the tissue, it dries all the fat. So all the legumes, raw fruits, vegetables, herbs are supposed to be astringent. So this, you can just think of the things that you eat for your lunch, especially during lunch, because you don't want cravings right after lunch. Um, just make sure there is a balance of all these things. Okay. Oops. And then eating seasonally. This is really important. As you can see in the image that is on the right side, seasons change really drastically in nature. Like from winter when there is nothing to like summer and spring when the leaves are blooming and the flowers are coming in. So one thing that has been established is that microbes in nature actually change with season. And these microbes are associated with plants in a mutually beneficial relationship. Like if you pick up a carrot and I mean, if you are peeling it, then you are actually losing a lot of the microbes which are sitting on the sides of the carrot. But we just wash it and we know that there might be some microbes sticking to it, which is good for us. And those microbes actually, these basically seasonal foods that we're eating lead to the changes in human microbiome. So basically, the microbiota is keeping us in sync with the nature as the season changes. So this is really important because in today's world of like globalization, we are getting food from like Peru, from Ecuador, from Mexico, from all over the place. Like it's best to eat food that is grown locally. So in point number 4, as we say, like preferably from farmers market. So if you stay in California, it's best to eat things which are grown in California. Or you can go to a local produce store, like any grocery store, Whole Foods or anywhere. Like they have labels, they say that this was procured from this location. So try to avoid things which are grown in a different country, which was probably plucked, which when it was like not ripened, or and then it was kept in a cold storage and shipped and all of that. There is an environmental impact also, but then eating local food is always good for you.
We're not saying don't eat from another country. Like there are things that come from Mexico. There's a lot of our avocados, for instance, will come from there. Bananas don't really grow in this country.
In California.
So
bananas.
that's not what we're saying, but try to eat what is seasonal at a particular period of the year. And local is best because your microbiome then is in sync with the produce that is local.
And you are reducing all the environmental like gases and whatever due to shipping of the stuff that is coming from a different country, and also the fact that you're supporting the local farmer, which helps the economy. And finally, I wanted to talk about this person called Sister Noella, and this story. She's called the Cheese Nun, and basically she makes these like raw milk cheese since 1970s. And so basically the way it was made was you take raw milk, unpasteurized milk, and she would put it in these wooden vats and mix it with like a wooden big spoon or spatula, and she would make the cheese. When she tried to sell it, FDA said that we're going to shut you down because you are not making cheese in a sterile condition. So FDA's requirement is to, FDA, by the way, stands for Food and Drug Administration. And they said that you need to make it in steel containers, stainless steel containers, and needs to be completely sterile. So she actually went ahead and got her PhD in microbiology to understand the science behind it. And then she did an experiment where they made 2 batches of cheese, one in a sterile environment, one in her traditional environment, and in both the milk before making the cheese, they spiked in some bad bacteria like E. coli, a lot of E. coli, and then they let the cheese form and so on. And then once the cheese was formed, they cut it out and they tested for E. coli, and they saw that in the traditional raw milk cheese that she makes in the wooden vat, it had almost no E. coli left because the other bacteria, the lactobacillus or whatever other bacteria was in there in the wooden vat, which comes out and then like ferments the rest of the milk, the good bacteria, that kills off all the E. coli. But in the stainless steel vats, where it was like sterile condition, it basically, if you have like a bad bacteria like E. coli, then you just have really bad bacteria in your cheese. So this is something like, if you know that you are getting something from the nature, and like the microbiota balance is very important in your body as well. Okay. So the next thing is eat at the same time of the day. And I think everybody probably here is a culprit of this, and everyone is busy. They have family, they have, did anyone have a question?
Definitely a connection.
Oh, somebody was talking. So, I mean, everyone is busy in their life. Something is happening. You have meetings, blah, blah, blah. So thankfully to COVID, everyone is working from home. So now you don't have an excuse of not following this. So the whole point of this is, if you see this image on the right side, the body actually responds to the light cycle due to sun and creates different, like for example, you can see there is blood pressure changes, melatonin secretion, body temperature, and so on.
Secretion stops.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that the physiological changes, which keep your body in sync with the natural light cycle. And so what we are suggesting, and I think many people and many elders have suggested, that your body acclimatizes and releases enzymes at the meal time. So if you keep eating your meals at a certain time of the day for, let's say, a month, your body will acclimatize and start releasing, like you will know that you will get hungry at that point of time. And this makes sure that you digest your food properly. So for example, like I'm just giving an analogy here. If you're changing meal time for the body every day or very frequently, it's like changing time zone when you're flying from like West Coast to East Coast, what it does to your sleep quality. Just imagine that. When we go from West Coast to East Coast, we are always like, oh my God, 3 hours here and there. And like if you travel to India, it's even worse, right? So changing meal time actually wreaks havoc inside your body, which you can't see, of course. And so if your body is not in synchrony, so what the first point was about circadian rhythms, which is like the rhythm of the day, daily circadian rhythms. If your body is not in synchrony or your circadian rhythm is off, this will lead to obesity, diabetes, and other chronic diseases. And this has been like proven very convincingly in the literature. So there is a good reason for you to be in sync, and eating your meal on time will actually keep you in very good sync with the light cycle. And then eating the largest meal for lunch. So the digestive fire or the enzymes which are released are like at the strongest at that point of time. So like in general, I think there was a study where people with heavy lunch and light dinners have reported improvements in sleep, anxiety, depression, weight, cravings, and fatigue. So I mean, it's something very easy for you to do, right? Like you can always increase your lunch amount and then decrease your dinner amount, and just see how you feel for a few days. And if you feel better, just continue with it. Okay.
And your digestive fire is they say it's the strongest between 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So ideally try to time it such that it's not too late. And are you going to talk about the dinner?
Yeah. So again, because it is the lunch, make sure you are satisfying all the 6 tastes. And then dinner, you need to make sure that it's not very heavy. Like, don't go for a Indian lunch buffet for dinner, or eat too greasy or heavy food, because it doesn't digest well. And like after dinner, like when you are sleeping, it's the time for cleansing and repair for your digestive tract. It's not the time for digesting a lot of food.
So also in the evening, as the sun sets, your body has this natural tendency to go into a relaxation mode, and it's not prepared to do a lot of heavy lifting of heavy dinners. So eating a heavy dinner is putting a lot of stress on your body's energy levels.
Yeah. Moving on.
And the digestive fire is not that high either in the evening.
Yeah. Okay, can you guys tell me the image that I'm showing here, which plate has more food?
Same.
The same amount in both plates.
Plate is small.
The illusion is to prove that the smaller plate, you think there's more food.
That's right.
Exactly. So it's proved that, as you said, Minu, if you have a smaller plate and you take the same amount of food, you feel like, okay, I ate quite a lot. Versus if you have a big plate, you're like, oh, this plate is really empty. I need to eat more. So one thing that is highly recommended is your lunch or dinner plate, just downgrade it to a smaller size, and you will see that you will automatically eat less if you have been eating too much and you feel heavy after the meals. So that's a very simple trick to use. This is also good for children, actually. So if you have children who eat too much, if you think, then you can give them a smaller plate and you will see a difference. And then it's vital to balance all the macronutrients, basically the carbs, fats, and proteins, and then pepper them with all the like superfoods or the herbs or masala that you have for flavor. Super important. And eat up to only 80% of your fullness factor. Don't eat up to your like neck. Just don't stuff yourself. That's not good, because your digestive tract is not able to handle too much. Like if you fill it up all the way, then it's really difficult for it to handle it.
Satiety. So there's a time. Can you talk about it?
Yeah. So it takes about 30 to 60 minutes for like satiety to kick in. So like the food needs to travel through your esophagus to your stomach and then to your small intestine. So for the fullness factor to kick in, it takes some time. So if you rush through your lunch, it will you will feel like you are not full, and then you keep eating more. So give it about 20 to 30 minutes and you will feel the satiety. And then the final point here is to drink some lukewarm water 30 minutes before the meal to kickstart your digestive fire. This just helps in like making sure that your body is hydrated and the enzymes are activated for you to be able to digest the food. This slide is a little bit philosophical, but you have, if you think about it, it really is important. So it's basically, Mir talks about me time in the morning, and it's like me time whenever you're eating. So eating mindfully and peacefully when you're sitting down, like this monkey who's meditating and eating its banana. So you're feeding your body and you're actually feeding your soul, your mind, and you're trying to like balance your emotions. So definitely eat your meal while sitting down. Don't stand and eat. It's been shown that it's not good for your overall stress levels and the digestion and all that. Distractions are very common with like phone calls, video calls, and all that. So just be at peace. You can, of course, have a conversation with your family members and people who are around you, but try to be as calm as possible. Don't eat when you're angry. Not a good idea. So emotional state of mind, as I said, affects digestion and also the microbiota composition. So like if you are always like in a stressed mode, your digestion will suffer. And this last point is probably now possible because everyone is in a COVID lockdown, everyone is at home. So you can do like a short rest or siesta after the meal for efficient digestion of the meal. And I think many people in India, after their, especially the lunch meal, they take a small siesta, especially in West Bengal. And the most important thing is to lie on your left side after the meal. So what it does is, like, if this is the person, this is your stomach on your left side, if you lie on your left side, your food is going to stay like in this region, and this region of the stomach is more elastic, so you can keep it here and digest it properly. If on the other hand, if you sleep on the right side, which is this side, all the food is going to trickle and come to this sphincter. So even before it gets digested, just because of the force of gravity and because you are sleeping on your right side, it is going to go through the sphincter and go into the small intestine. So you will not have a proper digestion. So left side after the meal is important. Okay. And then the final commandment is to space out your dinner and breakfast by 12 hours. And also, if possible, so minimum of 12 hours. You can go up to 16 hours or whatever you can. But definitely try to get to 12 hours, at least 12 hours. And then dinner to bedtime, at least 3 hours. I mean, we are still working on it. We still haven't gone to 3 hours, but we are still trying to get to 3 hours. The first one, it's relatively easy. So why is this important? This is important for both your physical health and mental health. And I will talk about the science behind it. So this like 12-hour and 3-hour time window gives time for your digestive tract to prepare for the next day. So there are these motility patterns in your GI tract. So they are most active when you're actually sleeping. And this is called migrating motor complexes, also called the broomstick of the gut. So basically, this is the time when you're not eating anything, nothing calorific. You can just drink water. And these are just like cleaning from the oral to the anal, and it's just cleaning out the gut and pushing everything to the colon. So this cleaning up is super important, because if you keep eating all the time, if you keep snacking all the time, food is not traveling properly, not digesting, not moving properly. And then you have other problems in the GI tract, colon related problems and things like that. Also, if you have this 3-hour window after dinner, and then from dinner to breakfast 12 hours, the body, because 3 hours you are still awake, right? So you're still like doing something, you're awake, so you're spending energy. So this puts your body into this mild ketosis, which is the second point. This happens when your body actually runs out of carbs, and since you had a small meal, not a very heavy meal, it has to now break down fat for energy, which is what you want. So this is called mild ketosis, and this helps in fat breakdown, just keeping your body healthy in general. And then there is increased autophagy of damaged cells, and this has been shown in so autophagy is basically cells which are damaged, they eat themselves. Auto means yourself, and phagy means you eat. So autophagy is damaged cells are just like killing themselves and cleaning out the system. And also lymphatics are these like special vessels which are in the brain, which clean up all the toxins and the waste in the brain. So it actually improves your cognition. And the last point which I wanted to make is it has been shown recently that just doing this, what is called, some people call it intermittent fasting, but this just like time between, if you space out your meals and your bedtime, it is actually able to reverse some of the cognitive decline that happens in many elders.
So I think some research that I've read talks about if you say you've had your dinner and you're awake for a few more hours, there's a tendency that you're going to snack. And when you snack, and if this process of cleaning out of different things has started, if you interrupt it, it does not complete, and then you've left it incomplete like that. So every night you want to give it that full cycle for it to complete the cleanup work, so that you're not accumulating things over time and over days.
Okay, so moving on. So those were the 8 commandments. So, and then now we wanted to just give you, I wanted to just give an example over here about a 12-hour fast. So, I mean, we're not saying that we do this, but just an example, like if you are at, let's say 8 hours right now, how do you get to 12 hours? So you could have a meal at 7 a.m., your breakfast. The snack is not important. You can skip the snack if you want. And then you have a meal at around noon, and then a very light snack like a fruit or something, and then you have your dinner at 7. So it's pretty easy to get to 12 hours, but going beyond 12 hours is a little bit harder. So I would recommend, if you are at 8 hours, just go in 1 or 2 hour increments. Don't try to go from like 8 hour to 12 hour. It will be difficult for your body to acclimatize to that. So slowly, if you're at like 7, 8, 10 hours, then just go 11 hours, 10 to 11, 11 to 12, and so on. Yeah. So the next things we wanted to talk about are not necessarily commandments, but critical recommendations. We think very important to know, because there is a lot of like lot of data out there which will tell you here or there, and these are things that we have done in our lifestyle, and we think that it's super important. So the first thing is refined sugar. You need to basically cut out refined sugar from your diet, and glucose is better than table sugar, because again, all of these will have one slide each dedicated, so we'll talk about it in details. Eating low glycemic foods or complex carbohydrates, soaking your whole grains, beans, and legumes, and then avoiding packaged foods or processed foods, then eating for your microbiota instead of eating for yourself. Don't be selfish, eat for your microbiota. And then finally, plant-based or plant-rich diet, which has a lot of benefits. So first thing, sugar. So many of you may not know this, but sugar that we eat normally, table sugar, is actually called a disaccharide, or it has two sugar molecules in it. So if you take 1 kilogram of your table sugar, it actually has 500 grams of glucose and 500 grams of fructose. So the glucose is good. Every cell in your body can metabolize glucose. It's a source of energy, it's great. But the problem is fructose. So fructose is only metabolized by liver, and then fructose basically gets converted into fat, which leads to fatty liver, a host of metabolic diseases. So if you're eating just table sugar, then you're actually getting half of it is fructose. So that's why I said in my previous slide that glucose, taking just refined glucose is fine, because you're just giving energy to your body. It is sweet, so it's not a problem. And then this is important. A calorie is not a calorie, because a calorie from fructose is not the same as a calorie from glucose. I don't want to go into too much details, but I can send you some YouTube videos. There is a professor at UCSF who has like dedicated his life towards figuring out how fructose is a poison, and basically you have to figure out like where your calorie is coming from. So calorie from glucose is definitely not a calorie from fructose.
Yeah, maybe one thing to add, Moy, I think here is that when Moy is mentioning glucose, you can actually get a glucose packet. You can replace that glucose, spoon of glucose with sugar. I have done that at Moy's place. So he adds glucose to his chai and all, so which tastes as good as the sugar.
Yeah, it tastes, you will not feel any difference. It is a little expensive, but I mean, we are using it in like moderation, so we don't use too much of it anyways. So and it's less sweet also. So finally, basically what we are trying to say is avoid any sugars in your food or drinks. Read the labels of any food item that came in a packet. Like any baked good you take, it has sugar in some shape or form. And there are like, I think 40 different names of sugars, like high fructose corn syrup to mannitol to blah, blah, blah. There are like so many names. So try to avoid that. If you want something, bake yourself, cook yourself, and then use some sugar alternatives like fruits, like cinnamon, fennel, dates. All of these have some kind of sweetness associated with it. And
Like fennel is another thing. Like instead of trying to take a piece of dessert after a meal, in India it was very common to have fennel, or even in the Indian restaurants you'd see.
mukuas.
It's actually helps with your digestion, as well as it's got that slightly sweet flavor, which should give you that satiety to some level. As okay, I've taken the sweet that I've been craving. You can try that. It usually works.
And you might ask a question that, oh, fructose is a fruit sugar. Why is it bad? It's always in fruits. But if you think about it, the refined sugar has so much fructose. Like if you let's say you add 2 spoonfuls of sugar in your tea every day, and out of the 2 spoons, 1 spoon is basically fructose. And how many, let's say, bananas do you have to eat to get that much purified fructose? That's probably like 12 to 20 bananas. So like nature made sweet things or fructose and mixed it with fiber so that you actually eat the whole fruit and not just purify it and just have the purified sugar. So there is no way you can eat the same amount of sugar by eating natural alternatives like date or some kind of fruit. And the fiber actually is good for your microbiota. Okay, next, what is glycemic index? You may have heard of it. Glycemic index is basically how the carbs that you're eating, it's affecting your glucose level. So here in this graph, what it shows is you eat your food and how does your blood glucose level spike. So if you have something which is high glycemic index, you have a really big spike, and then there is like a big dip. So high GI carbs cause blood glucose to spike and then crash. Low GI carbs are digested and released slowly for sustained energy. So for example, like, I don't know, if you have like a fruit juice or something, it's like super high GI, you will have a like very high spike and then there will be a crash. But if you
Rice
have
versus millets, for instance.
rice versus
Millets.
rice versus millets, yeah.
Or
I mean,
like refined polished rice versus non-polished rice.
Yeah. And low GI is basically if you're having like a whole wheat bread. So it will take a long time for it to release into your system. Okay. So basically what you want to do is swap your white bread for your whole grain bread, fruit muffin for a real fruit, and then jasmine rice, which is like white rice, completely white rice, for like al dente pasta, which is like whole grain, or you can probably get pasta of like different kinds, chickpea or quinoa or whatever. So just to give you an idea of all the different glycemic indices, on the left side is all the green ones. So low glycemic index is all these like whole fruits and vegetables. Orange zone is basically, it's slightly sweet compared to the green zone. And then the red zone is like really, really sweet, and all the processed stuff is over here. And I don't want to give you numbers. If you Google glycemic index, you can find glycemic index of every single thing you can imagine. So you can figure out how much glycemic index food are you consuming on a daily basis. Can anyone say what's going on here in this video?
Sprouting.
Yes, exactly. So here, what I wanted to show is a grain is not going to sprout until the conditions are right. So you have to plant it inside soil, has to have proper moisture conditions and stuff before it starts sprouting and the baby plant comes out. So phytic acid is really important for these grains and legumes, because this basically protects the grains and legumes when the conditions are not correct. And then when there is enough water around, that dissolves that the outer layer, and then it can start proliferating. This phytic acid, of course, if you are eating grains and legumes like rajma or any kind of, just imagine any like chickpeas and all of that, phytic acid is really highly present in these things. Anything which is hardy has high levels of phytic acid. And what it does is it prevents the absorption of minerals and vitamins by chelation. So this is the chemical structure of phytic acid on the right side, this hexagonal structure. And what I'm trying to show is like all these divalent ions like magnesium, calcium, zinc, iron. These are all like chelated, and since we cannot absorb phytic acid, it just passes out in our stool. So if you, let's say, are calcium deficient and you had a calcium supplement pill, but you had a very high phytic acid meal, then all the calcium that you had in your supplement basically was chelated by the phytic acid, and then it went into your stool. So it didn't really help. Want to say something? So
not necessarily all of it, but it becomes less efficient to take calcium along with high phytic acid foods.
Any of these minerals or vitamins, which are generally people take by supplements, then you have to make sure that you are not eating phytic acid rich meals with it. And heating, boiling, etc. doesn't help much because it actually kills the enzyme phytase, which is also present in the seed, and it's only waiting for you to soak it. Once you soak it, it will start sprouting, and then but if you heat it before soaking, then you're actually killing the enzyme. Phytic acid is still most likely there. So what you need to do, soak the grains or legumes overnight, drain the water, and then let the legumes sprout before you cook them or make a salad or whatever it is, or steam it.
It's not required to sprout. We sprouted thinking that it'll get rid of most of the phytic acid by that point. But at least the initial soaking will start the process. So you will still, like if you soak overnight, you are going to lose some of that phytic acid that was in the grain.
Yeah. Okay. We are running out of time, so I'll make it quick. So again, if you have existing mineral deficiency, then it is even more important, because if your phytic acid is high, then it's a problem. You're not getting all your supplements. Next thing is packaged foods. This is probably pretty well known. Try to read your label. So the label that I have here is of Cheerios, and you can see it not only has oats, it has like honey, it has sugar, it has brown sugar syrup, it has this tripotassium phosphate, it has bran oil, canola oil, all sorts of stuff in it. So be aware of what you're eating. I would rather eat plain oatmeal instead of having like a cereal. I would recommend that. And then industrial processing reduces nutritional value of foods. For example, the chocolate that you eat is, or like the milk chocolate, or like let's say 50% dark chocolate, it has a lot of milk and a lot of sugar in it to make it palatable for you. But raw and like the good qualities are not there anymore, or significantly reduced. Compare that to the raw cacao, which is very bitter, but it is considered to be a superfood. It is full of antioxidants, and if you eat, let's say, cacao nibs, it is like nice and crunchy. It's a little bitter, but that's like the best superfood ever.
It's one of your additional tastes. Like you can mix it up with your, if you're making a dessert like
smoothie
with
or
banana
whatever.
Based, or even a smoothie. It gives you that little bitter flavor too.
So processing and preservatives, as I showed you here in the label, is also linked to many chronic diseases at higher doses. US administration is not really great at talking about how preservatives in a chronic exposure lead to diseases. Europe is much better at it, but again, you have to think about it yourself and make wise choices. So eating for your microbiota. So 90% of the cells in your body are actually in the microbiome. So our body has 10%. So if you take the total number of cells, 10% of it is our own cells. 90% of it is the microbiota. I don't remember the number. It's something like some trillion or something like that. So you have to eat lots of fiber, because fiber is food for the microbiota. Introduce some fermented foods in your diet. So miso, kimchi, kombucha, tempeh, all of this, yogurt, which is very common in Indian food.
Well, going back to lots of fiber may not suit everybody. So again, everyone has to try out what is working for them at their current health state. And, as in you can increase the intake over time. If some people do suffer when you take too much fiber. So you'll have to figure out what that is. It doesn't have to be a lot.
Yeah, I mean, if you are like a primarily meat eater and suddenly you start eating high fiber food, then you will probably have gas. That's very common. And so in that case, you would have to take like probiotics or some kind of fermented food, so that you're not just giving fiber, you're actually providing new bacteria in your system, which can actually eat the fiber, which is why fermented foods are important. Okay, moving on. Last thing I think is about, this is just for you to consider plant-based versus plant-rich diets. Plant-based meaning vegan diets, so you don't eat any animal products, or plant-rich diets, which is mostly plants in your food with a little bit of dairy or fish. Why is this important? Because we are evolutionarily designed to eat plants, just like monkeys or gorillas, because we have teeth which are not for like biting into flesh, but more into like chewing stuff like dal and chawal and all of that. Also, the fact that the digestive tract in our body is pretty long, and it's not very acidic compared to carnivores. If you look at carnivores, they have a shorter digestive tract and very acidic. They basically if you are a carnivore, you're eating only meat, so the acidic environment helps in digestion, and it absorbs everything, and then it releases it as feces immediately. So the digestive tract length is also very close to herbivores. So we are evolutionarily designed to eat mostly plants. So we should not suddenly eat like a carnivore, right? We don't have canines. And these are easy to digest foods in general, and it is a complete source of nutrients. And there is a lot of data out there saying that, essential amino acids are not there, or you're not getting vitamin B12 and so on. There are always workarounds, and you can always figure out a way to get them through a plant source. Finally, it is good for environment. I'm sure you may have seen this in many documentaries and things like that. The culture of animals, factory farming, it takes a huge toll on environment. Most of the food, like the plants that are grown in agriculture in USA, is actually fed to the livestock to get meat, which is crazy in my mind. And it is really bad for the environment. And also the image on the right side, I'm showing if you eat fruits and vegetables, or just like grains, all the plant-based things, you get all the good stuff like carotenoids, flavonoids, lignans. These are all the good things that you get along with the proteins and fats and the carbohydrates. But on the other hand, if you eat the animal-based proteins, there is a chance of getting these like different chemicals which are actually not good for you. There might be endotoxins, there might be like other things which are not good for you. I'll just skip because we are already at 1 hour.
Do you want to ask Ashish?
Yeah, we can do that at the end if we have time. Let's just, I wanted to touch upon the nutrition for recovery. So also faster recovery after workouts. This is personal experience. I think Ashish can also talk about it because he recently switched into plant-rich diets also. And then, okay, this one is the important one. So before workout or running, what do you eat? So days before your workout or your race that you are thinking about, of course, make sure your body is hydrated. The thumb rule is you need to have a transparent pee. If it's yellow, then you're dehydrated. If it needs to be completely transparent. Make sure the glycogen levels in your muscles are replenished. So glycogen is basically the carbohydrate that is in your muscles that gives the muscle all the energy during a long activity. So eating low GI complex carbs, low GI meaning low glycemic index carbs will help. So like sweet potatoes, what else? Like whole grains, millets, all of those things help. Hours before workout, eat a combination of simple and complex carbs with fat. Like if you're doing a 10-mile run, you want to eat something which has, let's say, peanut butter jelly sandwich, where peanut butter is the fat, jelly is your simple carb, and then the bread is the complex carb. Same for the next one. And then if it's a long run, if it's hot outside, have a salt tablet, make sure electrolytes are there, drink some coconut water. And during the workout, ideally have energy shots 45 to 60 minutes, depends on a person. It depends how much you're sweating and things like that. And then it's possible to eat some simple carbs like banana, watermelon, strawberries. It depends on the person again. Like some people cannot take any kind of fiber, but some people can easily eat a whole banana while they're running. And then what about after the workout for recovery? So superfoods are really important, like spirulina, ashwagandha, and then chaga and reishi mushrooms are really, really good. Just make a smoothie out of these things. You can just mix it with other things, fruits and stuff. Natural anti-inflammatory foods, like if you're hurting, if you did like a hard workout with me on Thursday, you're hurting, everything is hurting, core and everything. Don't take ibuprofen or Tylenol. Just get some natural anti-inflammatories. Like, so pineapple core, or like the center of the pineapple, has a lot of bromelain.
All of the pineapple does, but it's more in the core.
Yeah, core is rich. So what we do is we get the pineapple. I keep the core for my smoothies, and then the rest of the pineapple we eat as fruit because the core is very hard to eat. It's a little bit fibery. And then ginger root, turmeric root, and whenever you eat turmeric, have a pinch of pepper. It helps to increase the absorption. And then natural electrolytes like miso, coconut water, mango, banana, etc. So you can basically put all of these things together, which we do, put everything in a smoothie. So post-workout, it's like a very nice recovery smoothie. And the good thing about a smoothie, if you make it in a good smoothie maker or like a Vitamix, is that because you make it into such fine paste, it's very easy for your body to digest it and start absorbing things. It doesn't stay in the stomach for too long. It goes into your small intestine and it gets absorbed very, very quickly. Okay, some smart hacks quickly. Always add black pepper. As I said, it increases curcumin absorption. So whenever you are adding, like turmeric is like everywhere in Indian cuisine, we put turmeric in everything. But if you put just turmeric, the curcumin in it doesn't get absorbed properly. So if you add just a pinch, if you add just a pinch of black pepper, it will help. If you are having calcium supplements for whatever reason, always have vitamin D along with it because it increases absorption. Same for
K is used for assimilation of
vitamin
calcium.
K. Yeah. Always have iron supplements with vitamin C, so that increases absorption, while coffee, tea, or cocoa, that reduces or inhibits the absorption. So just be aware of if you're having iron supplements. If you're getting other supplements like A, D, E, K, which are fat-soluble vitamins, you need to have some kind of dietary fat with it. So either you take these along like as a fat-based capsule or something, or you need to eat some kind of dietary fat along with it at the same time. Otherwise, it won't be absorbed properly. Some nutrients are heat unstable, like vitamin C. So avoid heating your lemon or lime juice. If you're cooking something, don't put your lemon and lime juice while you're cooking and it's like very hot, then your vitamin C is destroyed. And then, so just to summarize, nutrition is all about balance, which we talked about. So balance in all respects. Try to follow the 8 commandments. Don't be don't rush that you will see the result in a day or so. Be patient. It will take some time, but you will see results eventually. Avoid sugar, processed foods, increase your fermented foods and sprouted foods, and definitely consider, we're not trying to preach any diet, like any kind of diet to you, like keto, whatever it is. Just consider a plant-based diet because it makes sense. I personally am a Bengali. I have always eaten a lot of meat. Moved to USA, I used to eat anything that moves. And then thanks to Riddhi's good influence on me, I moved to mostly plant-rich diet. And I can see a difference in general body health and my athletic performance. So I would highly, and also because it is really vital for our environment. If you want to leave a world which is good for the next generation, highly recommend thinking about it, because the rate at which we are killing the environment is crazy because of this. Okay. And so finally, some references. These are some of the books that we have read, some of the articles that some of the information that we gathered from is from. And we will take some questions if you guys have any questions. Anyone?
Hi, Moy. This is Nagarajan here.
Hey, Nagarajan.
So it was a very nice session. Thanks for that. Very informative.
Yep.
A quick question. So what do you think about stevia? That sweet
For
sugar.
It's okay, but it also has a lot of fructose. So I personally don't like it. So if you think about it from the science, it's better to just eat glucose and avoid it. If you're eating very little and if you're working out enough that you're confident that you're gonna burn out, then it's fine. But
is there a reason why stevia versus maybe a small amount of say jaggery or date? There's other sources of sugar that have, I mean, sweetness which you could consider that instead of having to go out of your way to get stevia.
Like stevia is very much processed because you have to basically stevia is from plants where they have to I think make a juice out of it and then crystallize it.
That's okay.
And
that's the same with jaggery. So
yeah, but you can huh? But I'm talking about fructose, so there will be fructose in it also. So I mean, my whole point was fructose is the poison, glucose is not. So when we say sugar is poisonous, fructose is the culprit. Glucose is totally fine. Like you eat a little bit of glucose, it starts getting absorbed in your oral cavity. Your cells start using it immediately. So, but the fructose is going to the liver. For example, I'll just give you an example. My father never had alcohol, never had smoked in his life, but he has a huge sweet tooth. Okay. And just because he ate so much sugar his entire life, he was diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And that's all because of fructose. Fructose is like 2 steps before alcohol. So eating fructose is as good as drinking alcohol because that's what it's going to do to your liver.
Hello.
Jaggery
Yep.
a better option?
Jaggery is better because it has more, I mean,
unrefined.
It is unrefined. 2, it has a lot of minerals and vitamins in it, but it still has the fructose. So if you want to stick with some kind of like fructose alternative, I would go with jaggery. But our recommendation would be glucose because then it's cutting out
anything in moderation. I would say. I mean, I wouldn't say cut it out completely, but moderation is key.
Yeah, cool.
Try to reduce the amount. Say if you put 2 teaspoons of sugar in a cup of tea, then try reducing it to 1 and slowly cut it out. You'll see that there's other taste to the tea other than the sugar had actually hidden.
Yeah, we already started substituting it with jaggery, but just wanted to find out the fructose level. So yeah, sure, it's definitely better than sugar, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Hi, Moy. This is Manasa.
Yeah. Hey, Manasa.
Hi. Hey, I have a couple of questions, and probably I will text you too. One of them is like when we take these sprouts, right? Is that anything like we should eat only in the mornings or in the night? You're not supposed to eat sprouts. So I hear a couple of people saying that you should not be eating too much of sprouts in the night. Is there anything like that?
So again, if you're taking them raw, for instance, they're definitely heavier, harder on your digestive system. So you want to avoid anything that's hard to digest at night, as we discussed. So it is preferred that you take it during the daytime, maybe lunch maybe ideal, because your digestive power is the highest at that time. If you're cooking them, I would say, like if you're sprouting mung, for instance, mung is reasonably light. So if you're cooking the sprouts, it should be okay to have that for an evening meal.
I mean, even in the sprouts, like for example, mung is easy to digest, mung are not, but things like rajma is really difficult to, chickpea is really difficult to digest. So, I mean, figure out what your system likes or doesn't like, and then just dial it down. I mean, in general, recommendation is to eat a lighter dinner. So even if you're having it, have more, let's say chapati or whatever you're having, or salad, and then a little bit of your whatever sprouts.
I would say even for instance, can be heavy, but maybe a soup or a khichdi, which is rice, is slightly lighter than something like wheat.
Yeah.
So you want to switch that out.
I have another question is like, let's say if you got your body habituated to something like this, because but the reason I'm asking is I was talking to me too. So actually wanted to lose weight, and then which I accumulated from last year, 1 year. So I'm kind of going on heavy looking at my diet. So one of them is like, what are the chances that you won't be able to eat like normal in the sense like, oh, you know what, one day I just wanted to go have a heavy food, biryani or something with the friends or something. I've seen people who have been following something, we actually will have tummy upset or something else going on wrong because they got used to a very, very maintained healthy habit. Is that normal?
Yes, if your body is not used to a specific load, it is definitely out of the norm. And as he said, your body is getting used to a particular amount of digestive acids secreted at a certain point of time and amount. So it can be a little bit of a, stressed, as in it's not something it's used to. But if you continue to do that, your body will sort of maybe again get accustomed to the heavier meals. So your body is trying to tell you that this is not right. If you're overdoing something, it's just a signal telling you that you should avoid it. But it doesn't have to be like a super upset tummy that you get really sick. It's hopefully it gets resolved next day.
I mean, again, moderation is the key, right? Like balance is important. Even if you're going for biryani, instead of having the whole plate, maybe you can eat half of it and then save the rest of it. Then it will be easier, right? So balance, again, that was my bottom line of the presentation. Think of balance in every respect of nutrition.
Yeah. So one last question is, sorry, I'm taking a lot of time. Like I heard multiple people talking multiple opinions on this intermittent fasting. I've seen most of the people who did early on, they said that, oh, you know what, I got a great results, I lost weight and all. But then none of them was like completely were aligned with this intermittent fasting thing. So you also said that a 12 minutes break is good. So do you think that that's actually really works on our digestive system to keep that 12-hour gap in the morning?
So that's exactly the reason why I didn't want to use the word intermittent fasting, because it's become like a kind of fad or a jargon right now. And if you Google intermittent fasting, you will get like hundreds of protocols. I approached it with a very scientific question that what happens when you are not eating during dinner time, and it's like convincingly proven that the digestive tract is very, very active. It is cleaning up. So if you like do something, if you eat something in between snack or whatever, then you are gonna stop that process. So that will lead to like these things, like nutrition. The problem with nutrition is if you do something wrong, it doesn't affect you immediately. It's a chronic disease. So like if you have some issue, that'll happen like 10 years down the line, and then you can't do anything about it. So where was I? I totally lost my track. So
12-hour fasting.
yeah, so 12-hour fasting is important, and I think giving the body the time to rest and recover, because like you throw food down the hatch and forget about it, right? The digestive, and I do research in the digestive tract and the nervous system which controls the digestive tract. So I understand this very well. So we need some time for the digestive tract to recover, rest, and then be ready for the next day. And 12 hours is just the beginning. You can go to 14 hours. And if you do a workout in the morning before you eat your breakfast, it's even better. Of course, don't push your body too much. Like if you have diabetes already, you might feel irritated and you can't do it, then don't do it. I mean, of course, listen to your body. If you can't force yourself, then go slowly and be at 10 hours and then go on. Intermittent fasting is like, if you look at the protocols, they sometimes they don't eat anything for the whole day, and then it's like weird.
In our culture, we've had that in the past, right? As in, it was very normal to have 11-hour break between sunrise, sunset, you're done with your meal, and sunrise is when you get your first meal, and that's usually like 11 to 12 hours anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a very easy and natural thing to do.
Yeah.
I
mean, like
want
9 hours is natural. Yeah. 9 hours is what I think is naturally happens because you eat at like 8:39ish, and in the morning before you get out, and then like by 8:30, you just make sure, hey, you know what, I should not miss my breakfast, so stuff something into your tummy so that you know that you are right there.
Yeah, I mean, just like again, nutrition is very individualistic, so you have to figure out what works best for you, and then
Okay.
find what works, and then slowly go towards a perfect schedule that you want.
Yeah, depending on body type, 14 hours or 16 hours may not work, and it's not even required.
I can't do 16 hours. I've tried. I can't do it. I get headaches and stuff.
Hey,
Okay.
Thank you so much for at least just presenting and taking time to put all those details for all of us. Thank you.
Sure.
So, MoynRiddhi, Sriram here. I have a quick question. So thanks for the presentation. So my question is related to allergies, mainly related to the pollen allergy. Can diet help in fixing or curing it anyway? I know honey helps in some certain aspects, but are there any other things that can help as well?
The only thing that I can think of is basically taking care of your microbiota, because the maximum amount of immune cells in our body is actually in our digestive tract. So, and whenever you have a meal, most of the blood actually rushes to your digestive tract, right? So if your microbiome is in very good sync with the season, and it's in like, if you think that there is a problem, then you can always there are some probiotics that we can recommend. You can try those, and that most likely will help. If it will probably not harm, but other than local honey, I can't think of anything else.
Again, the honey, make sure that it's raw and local, because that will still, if it's processed, it'll just be more of sugar and sweetness rather than providing you the local pollen and the goodness of the local like the local fat.
Yeah.
Actually, I've seen this in many farmers market. If you go, they actually like break the honeycombs and they sell the whole honeycomb. So you can eat the whole honeycomb with the wax. The wax is actually good for you. And if you eat the whole unprocessed honeycomb, you are getting like this like big shot of everything, like including honey and all the pollens that the honeybees collect. It's just amazing.
Okay. We were getting the raw honey, but we did not try the one with in its purest form. We'll give it a shot.
If you actually know about like what you are allergic to, like there are like apps that can track which pollen is most, and then if you can figure out that, oh, my symptoms are really bad today, so it's probably the grass pollen or whatever pollen, you can figure out exactly what you are kind of allergic to, and then the people who sell it in the farmers market, they have different kinds of honey. Like they have the grass honey, blah honey, like all different kinds of honey that I've seen
from different trees.
So you can like pinpoint and find, okay, this is the honey I'm going to have, and that most likely will help.
Also, I think even pesticides in the food has a role to play, because it does affect your microbiome, and your microbiome will it also affects the digestive tract. Something called leaky gut, which has become more of a known thing. That is when your food particles actually could go directly into your bloodstream, and that is your body thinks you're under attack. So that's usually your allergic reaction to something. So maybe there's some foods that will help you. I guess there's some kind of cleansing that needs to happen, and re-establishment of the microbiome that should help.
Okay, got it. Makes sense. Thank you. I did not know about the specific honey types actually. So that's good information. Thanks a lot. I'll give it a shot.
Hey, Rajesh here.
Oh yeah, Rajesh, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the super awesome presentation, Moy. One question is, I always had, while eating fruits, what I heard is eat fruits before eating the food actually, because the time it takes for the digestion of the food, and if you eat after eating a fruit after the food, then it's going to settle. It's going to wait for the food digestion. So I just want your thoughts on that. Is that the right way, or how is it actually?
I think I've heard both ways, that it's some people say it's okay to have it with your food, but we personally eat fruits separately. There's even combinations of foods that should not be mixed according to Ayurveda. But it's true that your fruits get digested quickly, and so if you eat it as a separate meal, you are getting the full benefits while it can be assimilated directly into your body. When you mix them, I'm not sure that the concept is necessarily
It's not
true.
about mixing, Riddhi, it's about the sequencing actually. Meaning, should
Yeah,
I
I
eat?
know. So sequencing, as in if you say you eat a heavy meal and that's still sitting in your stomach digesting, and you throw in the fruits, and the fruits will just wait to get absorbed or digested. There are discussions about this as to, they'll sit and rot on the top, but I don't know
Correct.
how that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I mean, I can't answer that because if you talk about the science, the stomach is able to basically, like, if imagine the stomach, it is able to contract and mix foods properly. So I can't imagine, like, you had, let's say, khichdi, and then you had some mangoes. Your khichdi is gonna just sit here, and then your mango is gonna be like a topping on top of it. That is not how it works. Like, the stomach is constantly, and it's very muscular, like compared to the other parts of the small intestine. Stomach is like extremely muscular, so it's always trying to like mix food. And in fact, the stomach goes to the small intestine, the duodenum, right? The sphincter that connects it, it has a size threshold. It doesn't have any other threshold. So the stomach is actually like, with the acid at pH 1, it is trying to like grind your food to like small bits, and then it will let it go. And food can stay in your stomach for up to 3 to 4 hours. So I am not, I can't comment on that, but scientifically, from the information that I have, I can't think of why it would be a problem. Of course, if you eat fruit separately, like we do, like as a snack in the afternoon, we know that most likely the lunch is gone, and now we are eating fruits, and already like we were a little bit hungry and we need to go until dinner time. So the fruit actually helps, and we are absorbing all the nutrients from the fruit in one shot. So before we take any other questions, I wanted Ashish to talk about his experience. So Ashish recently switched from, I think, like a more omnivore diet to a more plant-rich or plant-based diet. And he has seen some changes in his athletic performance, I believe. So I'll let him talk for a little bit.
Sure. So thanks guys for the awesome session, for the awesome talk. And I'll just like go through that, like what my diet is currently and what it was and why did I change. So what my diet is currently is, so it's mostly a plant-based diet. So so when I say mostly, it's basically in a week for 6 days, I have a plant-based diet, which means no meat, no dairy, no paneer, no milk whatsoever. And like 1 day a week, I have my cheat day where I have meat and eggs or like fish. So yeah. And like what my diet was before this is like, I think it was until last year November, I was having a very meat heavy diet. So it means red meat, fish, chicken, and so on. And why I changed is because I had gone for a medical checkup last year and my blood numbers weren't that great. So that kind of pushed me on to this path of like kind of going to a more plant-based foods. And also, I think Moy, you had mentioned about this documentary called Game Changers, which I saw, and that really changed my perspective towards food and the way I look at it. So yeah, I mean that also encouraged me to like to go for a more plant-based diet. And like what it has changed in me, like good things and bad things both. So good things is definitely that I do see that like now when I go for runs and like when I'm sore, I like heal much much quickly. I don't really so my legs are not sore for days. It's just like sore for a few hours, and then like just a small rest really helps me to like get back to normal. That's one thing. Second thing is, I mean, I was always heavy on coffee. I would need like more than 2 cups a day to get by my work. But now, since I'm having more of a plant-based diet, so plant-based diet is really light on your stomach. So when I have my lunch, I don't really feel that drowsy and sleepy. So I don't really need that extra cup of coffee anymore. And bad thing is, like, I mean, I don't like to take pills in general, but now since I'm on a plant-based diet, I do lack a B12 in my food, so I do have to take B12 pills every day. And also, like, I mean, since plant-based since my meat-based diet was helping me in my my intake of iron, so now, like, at least a few days a week I do have to keep an eye on, like, and I do have to have leafy vegetables, which I don't like personally, but yeah, now I've like grown to like it over the past few months.
It's usually pretty good to throw in
Spirulina.
greens into just about anything, dal, vegetables, just put some amount in everything that you make. You'll hardly even taste it.
Yeah, true. I mean, I think now I also put a spinach in my dal now, so yeah, that's a good plus. I mean, I'm having more greens. But then again, like as Moy also said, that we are not dietitians, we are not trained professionals. I mean, this is, so when I made that switch from meat heavy diet to a plant-based diet, I did speak to my doctor. I did tell her that this is the kind of switch I'm trying to make. So she did recommend that I should start taking B12 pills every day. And if you guys are planning to make that switch, so please talk to your doctor, see if this will work for you, and see what they have to say, and then make that switch.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashish.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, you're talking about all these B12 and iron and other things, right? I mean, I have a mostly plant-based diet. I've never really thought about these deficiencies, right? Is it like, do I look for symptoms where I know I'm deficient, or do I actually get some tests done to know?
B12 is present in dairy, so if you are having dairy, so you'll be fine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So that is only if you're going completely vegan.
And if you want to know the levels, you can just get a blood test done, and B12 you can easily
D3 is another thing that
D3 and B12
we don't really think about. It's not part of the normal testing either.
Yeah.
We stay in the time of the day.
There'll be side effects, symptoms where it would cause some sort of, for you to actually realize that you're deficient. Because I mean, when you diet switch.
Yeah, but B12 doesn't, like, if you are deficient in B12, there will be problems all over the body. It's not gonna be like one single thing.
But you may not realize it right away. It's over time, and it's related to the nervous system. But I personally have not. I think I knew that I needed to take the supplement.
I mean, it's very easy. You can just ask your PCP to say that, tell them that I am planning to switch to a, let's say, a vegan diet or plant-based diet, and I want to see where my B12 numbers are. Most of the insurances cover it. So I do it yearly. Every year, my yearly checkup, I do my B12 and my D3 numbers, because I know that those two are always the difficult ones to get.
So just to answer that question, this is Meher. I've gone through the deficiency. So the symptoms start from being extremely fatigued throughout the day. If your numbers are low, that's like the basic one, low energies, sometimes depression, and you don't know why you're feeling low. That's like the general one. But if you, sorry, this is B12, yes.
Okay.
And then once you are deficient, and if you don't catch it, so when I first turned vegan, I did not realize that I had a deficiency. So if you can continue on, and for 6 months, you start losing your memory, actually, and you call people by other names. And you actually have nerve sensation. So your fingertips and your toe tips, you will feel some tingling sensations. So that's how you realize that you have a B12 deficiency.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
okay.
And that's just a few of the symptoms. Everyone will be different in how they experience this.
Yeah, even I have heard that, because a couple of years or 1.5 years back, this is Rashmi, by the way. So even I went through the checkup, and since I'm vegetarian, my B12 level was really, really low, and they recommended me shots. And again, whatever Meher told, all those symptoms that they told, like basically leads you to depression in one way, because you're fatigued, I mean, how much ever energy you're putting into your workouts, you lose because you don't have that much of energy. Plus, there is no side effect in taking more of any vitamin B's, B6, B12, because if you take more, then whatever your body needs, it will consume and remove it through your pee. So basically, if you are having excess B12, then maybe next day morning you'll see your pee being yellow. So there is really no side effect of it if you take more.
Yeah, that's
So
true for any water-soluble vitamin. So
yeah.
vitamin C, vitamin B, all the Bs like B1 through B, whatever, 12, all of them. Water-soluble vitamins, you can always take more and the body will figure out how much it needs.
And one more thing is, even if you don't have a deficiency today, as you grow older, the capacity to absorb it reduces over time. So even if you didn't have it today, a few years, if you become vegan and you continue this, you will have to check it again to see if you're deficient or not.
Yeah.
No, yeah. I mean, my question was more about if you make a lifestyle, I mean, big lifestyle choice, right? The diet, then I guess you are more conscious about it. But if you're not doing anything like that, and I've never thought about a specific deficiency so far, and I've not had any sort of major symptoms for my doctor to say, take this. So in that case, I guess you're saying it's still good to kind of get some tests done to know where your levels for various things are.
But if you've not been vegan, I would say I would check at least D3, because D3 is something that we lack just because we don't spend enough time outside in the sun, right? So even if I was in Austin, I would go for a run in the daytime, but that was just not enough. It wasn't happening every day, and I was severely D3 deficient. So it's not